For centuries, stories of long-necked monsters have rippled through the tides of human imagination. From the great sea serpent said to twist through uncharted oceans, to the legendary Loch Ness monster rising from Scottish mists. These tales have never truly faded. They speak to something deep within us, a fascination of the vast, shadowed realms beneath the waves, where the line between fact and myth seems to blur. The idea of something immense, ancient and serpentine gliding just beyond sight has both terrified and enthralled humankind for generations. But what if, before such legends ever surfaced, those creatures were real? Not as products of folklore, but as living, breathing rulers of Earth's prehistoric seas. Even today, nature gives us glimpses of that same elegant design. The giraffe stretches its neck skyward to feed where no other animal can reach. The swan bends its long, graceful neck to glide and feed beneath still waters. Herons and egrets use theirs like precision tools, striking with lightning speed at unsuspecting prey. Across land, air and water, the long neck endures, a symbol of both beauty and adaptability, echoing designs first perfected in the ancient seas. The OG long-necked giants didn't appear yesterday. They rose over 200 million years ago, in the Mesozoic era, the fabled age of reptiles. While dinosaurs thundered across the land, the oceans were ruled by an equally extraordinary cast of creatures. Among them, the Plesiosaurus stood out as one of evolution's most remarkable experiments. A lineage of marine reptiles that took the art of swimming and the elegance of form to breathtaking extremes. Appearing near the end of the Triassic period, these animals would dominate Earth's waters for over 130 million years, until the Great Extinction Event 66 million years ago brought their reign to an end. Unlike fish or sharks, plesiosaurs weren't born of the sea. They came from land-dwelling ancestors who returned to the sea and never looked back. Over millions of years, their bodies slowly transformed into sleek, ocean-ready machines. They developed broad torsos, powerful lungs, and 4 massive flippers that propelled them in perfect, synchronized rhythm. Their swimming style has no equal among living creatures today. It wasn't like the thrash of a shark or the undulating glide of a dolphin. Instead, it resembled underwater flight, their flippers beating in graceful sweeps that carried them effortlessly through the ancient oceans. Fossils even suggest that these reptiles gave birth to live young, meaning they spent their entire lives at sea, a complete evolutionary commitment to the water world. Yet it wasn't just their anatomy that captured scientists' attention, it was their diversity. Within the Plesiosauria family, evolution produced both long-necked specialists and short-necked giants. The long-necked forms, known as plesiosauromorphs, were almost alien in design. Small heads perched atop necks that could stretch over 7 meters long, composed of dozens of interlocking vertebrae. They were the stealth hunters of their time, perhaps using their remarkable reach to strike at schools of fish or crustaceans with the precision of a heron's beak. Their graceful proportions may seem fantastical, but nature has echoed this design again and again. Think of the swan, or the heron, or even the giraffe. Across vastly different worlds, evolution repeatedly found beauty and function in length. Then there were their counterparts, the pliosaurs. If the long-necked plesiosaurs embodied grace, pliosaurs were the embodiment of raw power. Species like Pliosaurus and Liopleurodon were apex predators, stretching over 15 meters in length, with skulls the size of a man. Their jaws could crush bone, and their torpedo-shaped bodies made them swift and deadly. They were the marine equivalent of tyrannosaurs, ruling the food chain long before modern sharks rose to dominance. The discovery of these incredible creatures reads like something out of an adventure novel. In the early 1800s, along England's Jurassic coast, a young fossil hunter named Mary Anning discovered a nearly complete skeleton, unlike anything the world had ever seen. It had a turtle-like body, massive flippers, and a neck impossibly long. When it was first presented to the Geological Society in 1824, one observer described it as a serpent threaded through a shell. That fossil, and the name that followed, Plesiosaurus, meaning nearer to a lizard, would ignite scientific fascination across Europe. Soon, new species poured in from around the world, each one stranger than the last. Victorian illustrators portrayed them as monstrous sea dragons, their serpentine necks thrashing through storm-tossed waves, a blend of scientific wonder and Gothic imagination. Yet modern science paints a far different picture. Plesiosaurs weren't monsters at all. They were masterful, efficient predators, perfectly tuned to their environment. Evidence suggests they were warm-blooded, active and possibly social, roaming seas from polar regions to the tropics. Their fossils have been found on every continent, from the coasts of Australia to the Arctic, revealing just how successful they truly were. Of all the plesiosaurs, few capture the imagination quite like Elasmosaurus. Its neck alone stretched for more than half its body length, a remarkable feature that may have sparked the earliest stories of sea serpents and lake monsters. With a tiny head perched on an enormous body and flippers that swept gracefully through the water, it looks like a creature pulled from our dreams. Yet, it was utterly real. Elasmosaurus was one heck of a marine reptile, cruising the waters of North America during the Late Cretaceous, around 80 to 77 million years ago, in what we now call the Western Interior Seaway. Its fossils first popped up in 1867 near Fort Wallace, Kansas, and were sent to the famous paleontologist Edward Drinker Cope. In 1868, Cope officially named it Elasmosaurus platyurus, which basically means fin plate reptile with a flat tail. He famously goofed when he reconstructed it with the skull at the tail end, a blunder that Othniel Charles Marsh had a field day mocking during their legendary Bone Wars. Only one incomplete skeleton of Elasmosaurus has been confirmed, including a fragmentary skull, spine, and the now lost pectoral and pelvic girdles. Today, just a single species is recognized, though a few fragmentary fossils from Germany might also be part of this genus. Even with limited bones, Elasmosaurus made a name for itself thanks to its insane neck, around 7.1 meters or 23 feet of its total 10.3 meter or 34 foot length. That neck packed 72 vertebrae, making it one of the longest necked animals ever, only just edged out by its cousin, Albertonectes. Its skull was narrow and triangular, with sharp fang-like teeth at the front and smaller teeth in the back. The upper jaw had 6 teeth per premaxilla, while the maxilla and lower jaw might have held 14 and 19 teeth, respectively. Most of the neck vertebrae were flattened sideways and had a kill running along their length, giving that impossibly long neck the support it needed. Elasmosaurus also gave its name to the family Elasmosauridae, the squad of long-necked plesiosaurs. These reptiles were built for life in the water, using 4 massive flippers to fly through the ocean with smooth, elegant strokes. Forget the old cartoons. These necks weren't bendy like noodles, and couldn't rise high above the water. They were probably more about stealth, letting the animal reach into schools of fish or snatch smaller prey without causing a splash. Elasmosaurids likely chowed down on small fish and marine invertebrates, and might have swallowed gastroliths, or stomach stones, to help grind up their food. Fossils of Elasmosaurus mostly come from the Pierre Shale Formation, a record of the Western Interior Seaway's marine sediments. Even with only partial remains, this long-necked beast still blows the mind, a living proof of how evolution can push life into strange, extreme, and downright jaw-dropping forms. Even though the only known Elasmosaurus skeleton, the holotype is incomplete and missing many parts, comparisons with related elasmosaurids give us a pretty good idea of what this creature looked like. It would have had a streamlined, compact body, 4 long paddle-like limbs, a short tail, a proportionally small head, and, of course, that insanely long neck. While impressive, this neck was still less than half the length of the longest-necked sauropod dinosaurs. When Edward Drinker Cope first described Elasmosaurus in 1869, he estimated its total length at about 13.1 meters, or 43 feet, believing cartilage between vertebrae would have pushed it closer to 13.7 meters, or 45 feet. Later, in 1952, paleontologist Samuel Wells revised the estimate to a more modest 10.3 meters, or 34 feet, a figure that has held up in more recent studies. The skull of Elasmosaurus was sleek and triangular, with a rounded snout that almost made a perfect semicircle from above. Up front, The premaxilla likely sported 6 hefty, fang-like teeth, while the teeth towards the back were smaller. Classic elasmosaurid style, what scientists call heterodont dentition. The lower jaw matched the same setup. Big chompers in front, smaller ones behind, all interlocking like a precision trap, ready to snag fish or tiny critters. The original skeleton's shoulders and hips were long gone by the early 1900s, but old sketches and notes show how they were built like tanks, wide, solid, and well ossified. The shoulder blades fused at the midline, with long, broad upper processes, and the pelvis had a rare medial bar formed by joined ischia, a feature you don't see in most plesiosaurs. And those flippers, massive, the front ones longer than the rear, letting Elasmosaurus glide through the water like a pro, smooth and effortless, a true heavyweight of the ancient seas. Although Edward Drinker Cope first recognized Elasmosaurus as a plesiosaur, his 1869 paper took a surprising turn. He grouped it alongside Simoliosaurus and Crymocetus into a new order of sauropterygians, calling them Streptosauria, or reversed lizards, because he thought their vertebrae were oriented backward compared to other vertebrates. He quickly backtracked, admitting his error was based on Joseph Leidy's misinterpretation of Simoliosaurus. In that same publication, Cope quietly established the family Elasmosauridae, including both Elasmosaurus and Simoliosaurus, noting only that Elasmosaurus had a longer, compressed neck, while Simoliosaurus had a shorter one with square, flattened vertebrae. Over the years, Elasmosauridae settled into one of 3 main plesiosaur groups, the others being Plirosauridae and Plesiosauridae, sometimes merged. Early 20th century paleontologist Charles Andrews expanded on the distinctions. Elasmosaurids were long-necked, small-headed swimmers with rigid, well-developed shoulder blades, adapted for 4-limb-driven propulsion, while Pliosaurids were short-necked, big-headed predators relying more on their hind limbs. Despite debates over family relationships, Elasmosaurus remained firmly an Elasmosauridae, though the broader classification of the family continued to evolve. Elasmosaurus has always been a bit of a wild card in the world of plesiosaurs. Its insanely long neck, tiny head and powerful flippers set it apart from its shorter-necked cousins, making it a true standout in the ancient seas. Over the decades, paleontologists debated exactly where it belonged in the plesiosaur family tree, with each new discovery and analysis nudging its place slightly. Some studies suggested it was a more primitive member of its family, while others linked it closely with other long-necked giants, like Styxosaurus and Albertinectes. By 2020, its spot in Elasmosauridae was firmly established, giving us a clearer picture of how this incredible animal fits into the lineage of long-necked marine reptiles. Studies on plesiosaur movement have shed more light on their swimming style. 4 flippers were the main engines, while the hind flippers acted like rudders, keeping them stable and helping with sharp turns. Later research showed that when fore and hind flippers moved together, the rear paddles could produce up to 60% more thrust and operate 40% more efficiently, making these animals smoother and more agile than previously imagined. Unlike sea turtles, Elasmosaurids couldn't haul themselves onto land to lay eggs. Instead, they probably gave live birth, like some modern sea snakes. Fossil evidence supports this. A Polycotylus was found with a single fetus preserved inside, showing that viviparity wasn't just speculation. Life in the ancient oceans wasn't without danger. Elasmosaurids weren't always the hunters. They were sometimes the hunted. Fossil bones bear teeth marks from predators. A star-battled humerus was chewed by a shark, likely Cretoxorina, while a crushed skull of Eromangosaurus shows bite marks that match the massive pliosaur Kronosaurus. Even the ocean's giants had to watch their backs. Back in 1869, Edward Drinker Cope compared Elasmosaurus to a snake, imagining a creature that could glide through the water with insane grace. He pictured that crazy, long neck arcing like a swan, ready to dive for a fish, or just chilling on the water while scoping out the depths below. The trunk, he figured, was pretty stiff, but the neck and tail totally flexible, giving it that snake-like elegance in motion. Fast forward to today, and yeah, Cope might have been hyped. Elasmosaurus couldn't exactly lift its neck high out of the water like a swan doing yoga. The sheer weight of that neck kept the balance right behind the front flippers, so it could only raise its head in shallow spots, where it could rest on the bottom. Its neck muscles and vertebrae had limits, and the head and shoulders basically acted as a rudder. Move the front, the whole body follows. So forget any dramatic neck swoops while cruising. The animal wasn't pulling off any freestyle tricks. Studies on elasmosaurid neck flexibility show they could bend 75 to 177 degrees down, 87 to 155 degrees up, and 94 to 176 degrees side to side, depending on how much soft tissue padded the vertebra. Shallow curves and gentle S-shaped bends were doable, but the over-the-top swan neck poses you see in cartoons? Nope, totally unrealistic. Why such a long neck? That's still a bit of a head-scratcher. Most likely it was a stealthy hunting tool, letting Elasmosaurus sneak into schools of fish or poke around the sea floor without giving itself away. Some folks have suggested it acted like a snorkel, letting the animal breathe while keeping most of its body underwater. But physics and lung size make that unlikely for the ultra-long-necked ones. And yeah, that neck came with risks. It was basically a big bullseye for predators. Hydrodynamics research gives us some cool insight. Surprisingly, that long neck didn't slow it down going straight. Bending sideways, though, that added drag, especially for the really neck-heavy species. Luckily for Elasmosaurus, its massive torso helped counter the drag, meaning evolution hit that sweet spot. Long neck for reach, big body for speed. Scales and teeth from 6 different fish species were found right under the vertebra of the Elasmosaurus holotype, showing exactly what this predator had for lunch. From those remains, a new barracuda species, Sphaerena carinata, was even identified. Talk about a snack and discovery combo. Elasmosaurus had a neck built for business, and that flexibility meant it could hunt in all sorts of ways. One tactic: benthic grazing, basically cruising close to the sea floor and digging around for prey. Another: pelagic hunting, where it could pull back the neck for a quick strike or swipe sideways with those razor-sharp teeth, kind of like a prehistoric saw shark. And don't underestimate this long-necked predator. Its skull, jaw muscles, and big teeth meant it could tackle prey ranging from 30 centimeters up to a solid 2 meters. Fossils even show it dined on sharks, fish, mosasaurs, and cephalopods. That's not just snacking, that's serious hunting. And picture this for a moment: Elasmosaurus lurking beneath a school of fish, creeping up slowly with its head barely moving. Its eyes, perched on top of the skull, could lock onto prey above, giving it perfect stereoscopic vision. Hunting from below, totally on the table, prey silhouetted in the sunlight, while Elasmosaurus stayed hidden in the shadows. Most of the menu would have been small fish and invertebrates. The skull couldn't handle huge chunks, and those long, needle-like teeth were made for grabbing, not tearing. Everything got swallowed whole, no cutting corners. Gastroliths are often found with Elasmosaurids, though Elasmosaurus itself hasn't been seen with much, besides a single pebble stuck in a tail vertebra. Its cousin Styxosaurus, though, had fish bits and stones in its belly, including fish from way out of town, hundreds of kilometers away. These stones probably had multiple jobs: helping digestion, mixing meals, giving minerals, maybe even helping with buoyancy. Elasmosaurus patrolled the waters of the Western Interior Seaway some 80 to 77 million years ago. Its fossils are preserved in the Sharon Springs member of the Pierre Shale in western Kansas, a record of a vast, shallow sea that once split North America in two. At its widest, this inland ocean stretched from the Rockies to the Appalachians, spanning over 1,000 kilometers, or 620 miles, with depths rarely exceeding 900 meters, or 3,000 feet. Rivers from both continents poured nutrients and silt into the seaway, building shifting delta systems along low-lying shores and shaping a dynamic coastal environment. Beneath the murky, sun-starved surface, life thrived. The muddy seafloor was dominated by giant inocoramus clams, their shells layered with oysters, forming natural shelters for small fish. Crinoids, rudists, squids, and ammonites added variety to the benthic ecosystem. The waters teemed with formidable predators, massive bony fish like Xiphactinus and Ichthyodictes, and sharks including Cretoxyrena and Squalicerax. Elasmosaurus shared its realm with a menagerie of marine reptiles, other long-necked plesiosaurs, swift polycotylids, and terrifying mosasaurs, as well as giant sea turtles, diving birds like Hesperornis, and pterosaurs such as Pteranodon patrolling the skies. It was a world of constant motion, teeming with both prey and predators, a perfect stage for the stealthy, long-necked hunter of the Cretaceous seas. But the extinction event that wiped out the dinosaurs forever also brought Elasmosaurus to its end. 66 million years ago, disaster struck. A colossal asteroid slammed in the Yucatan Peninsula, triggering mega tsunamis, wildfires, and a sky packed with dust that blotted out the sun. Ocean temperatures plummeted, plankton died off, and the entire marine food chain collapsed. The asteroid wasn't the only troublemaker. The Deccan traps in India unleashed massive volcanic eruptions, acidifying oceans and poisoning the air, turning life in the seas into a brutal survival challenge. Elasmosaurus, with its highly specialized hunting strategy, couldn't adapt. Fish populations crashed, prey vanished, and the elegant predator slowly disappeared from the oceans forever. Yet extinction isn't the end, it's a reset. While Elasmosaurus and its marine contemporaries vanished, new life surged forward. Mammals, birds, and eventually us inherited a world reshaped by cataclysm.